The stocking was left on with something shocking. Now heaven knows anything goes.
Wait, hold on. Anything goes? Isn't that what's been happening right here in America for some time now? So, how does that make you feel? After all, our country is a land of laws framed by our Constitution, is it not? So, you might be asking, what can I do? Well, welcome to COS Indiana Live, where we'll be discussing how to use the Constitution to save the Constitution. Our vision is to build a strong, engaged army of self-governing activists. Our mission statement is to restore self-governance by recruiting, training, and deploying citizen activists to engage in all levels of government. So, if you've had enough of anything goes, join us every Monday at 7 p.m. as our state director and host, Dale Parrish, will show you how we can actually make a difference by using the Constitution to save the Constitution and our country. And without any further ado, here's Dale.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Convention of States, Indiana. Convention of States, Indiana Live. As Maringo Mike said, my name's Dale Parrish. I am the state director for Convention of States here in Indiana. And like Maringo Mike said, if you're feeling like, what can I do now? I don't know what alternatives do I do now? What's available to me? Well, we've got a solution we think as big as the problem, and that's Convention of States. And we think that it's time now to call a Convention of States for the purpose of proposing amendments to the Constitution to address some areas of specific concern. Now, I'll be going into this a little bit more in detail later on in the broadcast, but I just want to tell you that there's help out there, and I think we are the help, Convention of States. So hope you are interested in what we're trying to do. Now, also want to mention to you that we are live streaming the broadcast also on our YouTube channel, COS Indiana. So we do have an alternative way of viewing the broadcast. Again, that's a live streaming on our YouTube channel, COS Indiana. Before we get started, I just want to apologize to everyone for our last broadcast on March the 8th. I've kind of lost track of time here. On March 8th, yes, I got the right date there. We had some technical problems a little way into the broadcast, and we just had to terminate the broadcast. So I'll tell you, that happens. I have learned in doing this that once again, technology is wonderful as long as it works. But sometimes it just doesn't work, and you never understand why it doesn't work. So to this day, I don't know what happened last time. I've got some pretty good ideas, and we do have a good support group that offers this software to us, but it happens. So I apologize for that termination. Now, the young man that we were interviewing on that broadcast is named Dale Tipton. He's one of our new district captains. So I'll be bringing Dale back on probably in April. We'll get him scheduled for one of our broadcasts in April, and we'll do it again with Dale so that you get to meet him and understand and learn what he's doing. So let's now briefly go through the different segments of our broadcast this evening so that you have an idea of what to expect. Now, in our first segment, of course, is the interview segment, and we always try to bring on one of our leadership individuals here in Indiana, or one of our volunteers. And tonight we have what we call our super volunteer, Debbie Stewart, is coming on this evening and will be giving us another chapter of constitutional literacy. And Debbie's going to be talking about equal protection tonight. So it's going to be very, very interesting. So that'll be in the first segment. The second segment will be what I call the information segment. I'll bring up my PowerPoint and we'll briefly go through some things about some numbers, some how we're doing here in the state of Indiana, some resources that we all have available to us. Also mention what's on tap for next Monday evening's broadcast. So that'll be in the information segment. We'll also be recognizing in the next segment, we'll be recognizing viewers that have made comments or asked questions this evening. If you are viewing and you want to make a comment or ask a question, feel free to do so in the chat section, and I'll do my best to recognize as many people as possible. Keep your comments or questions very brief, as I'm limited to the number of characters that I can put up on the screen. In the fourth segment, I call it the contributors segment. We have certain individuals in our organization that we call COS Indiana Live contributors. One of those is our John Ackerman. And John, we call his contribution John's Journal. So we have one of John's contributions this evening. I think you're going to enjoy it. Very, very brief, but John does a very good job of giving us contributions that we can use in our broadcast. Then in the final segment of the broadcast, I call it the invitation segment. This is where I'm going to give you some information about what Convention of States is all about. Talk a little bit about self-governance and how important that is to us. Then I'm going to tell those of you that do not belong to Convention of States here in Indiana how to join, because our broadcast, you're really the target audience for this broadcast. Those of you in Indiana and beyond, we welcome anyone that wants to join Convention of States. But I'm trying my best to target those of you in Indiana that are not part of our organization as yet. And so I'm going to tell you how to go about joining Convention of States. And then we will wrap things up for this broadcast in the invitation segment. So that will be our final segment. Well, without further ado, then I think it's time to bring on our guest in the first segment, which is our super volunteer, Debbie Stewart. I'm going to unmute her before I bring her up in here, and we'll bring her up into the studio. Hello, Debbie.
Hi, Dale.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Glad you could join us this evening. So always enjoy having you on. Look forward to your segments.
Thank
you. As I stated, this segment tonight, or this interview tonight, will be one of the constitutional literacy chapters. And I would like to also mention, though, that we have Debbie come on some months and give us a civics lesson. And before I forget to say this, she is scheduled to come back again on April 19th. And this will be a civics lesson on April 19th, right? Mm-hmm. And correct me now if I'm not saying this right, it'll be on America's uniqueness. Is that pretty much it, or do you have a better way of saying it?
No, America's uniqueness, just what makes us unique, some of the things that we have patriotically in our country, and some of the things we do. And it's just kind of neat that, that's what makes us unique from other nations.
Okay, good. So we will be rotating back and forth with Debbie each month. One month it'll be a constitutional literacy chapter, then the next month a civics lesson. So we're trying to hold on to Debbie as long as we can. So Debbie, tonight, you told me this is constitutional literacy. Tonight, you wanted to talk about equal protection.
That is correct.
Now, now, am I correct? This doesn't mean that we all are going to be equal, right?
Right. It's equal protection under the law based on classifications of where we fall and what is the issue at hand. Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get started then.
Okay, great. Well, let's talk about the objectives. What are three things we really want to get out of this little segment here is that we want to know that the Constitution guarantees us equal protection to all United States citizens. We also want to recognize the ways in which the Supreme Court determines whether differences between classifications of people are significant enough to warrant different treatment under the law. And then third, we really want to take a look at and understand what has the Supreme Court's history been regarding the matters of race. Okay.
All right.
But before we jump into that first segment of the information, I do want to just talk about three terms very quickly, just to make sure everybody knows what they mean. So, Equal Protection Clause is a clause in the 14th Amendment that states no state shall deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the law. Okay, so the 14th Amendment passed in 1868, right after the Civil War. Really, the big part of that was because blacks did not have equal protection, and so they were being discriminated against. The second term is suspect classification. So suspect classification is a class of individuals that have been historically the subject of discrimination, for example, African Americans. And even women, gender issues with women, of course, were discriminated against for many years also. And then third, this is a term probably most of you have heard, but I want to review it, is affirmative action. And affirmative action is a policy where classes of individuals who have traditionally suffered discrimination are given preferential treatment, especially with regard to employment and educational opportunities. So that kind of was something that was spurred on because of minorities, but then it kind of backfired, and we'll talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's something that I've grown up with. Many of us have affirmative action, so that'll be interesting to talk about. So very good, very good.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's talk about equal but different. Okay, because not everybody's equal in every way, and for us to think of that would not really be a fair way of looking at this. So equal protection is a cornerstone of the American Constitution, but there are legitimate differences between people that require distinctions in the way that laws are applied. For example, a young man who's 15 years old and 364 days old cannot get his driver's license, but on the next day when he turns 16, he can get his driver's license. Well, is that equal protection? And so in this case, they used age as a reasonable indicator of maturity. That's not always the case, but you have to draw the line somewhere.
Right.
So the question becomes, when is it a violation of the Equal Protection Clause to treat people differently? That's the question we're going to be looking at. And a key is to know which differences provide legitimate reasons for laws to be applied differently to different people. Here's another example. Why do 18-year-olds get to vote and 17-year-olds not? That's not fair. That's not equal protection. Well, there's a reason. Why do men get drafted for the military, but women are not? Right? There's all these types of, why is a medical doctor able to write a prescription, but a chiropractor is not? So we all should get to the conclusion that the principle of equal protection is not being interpreted to demand absolute equality in every situation.
Okay.
All right. So just to clear the air with that.
Okay. Right.
Did you have any comments on that one, Dale, at all?
Well, when we talk about equality, we have to remember that the Constitution is not, the intent was not to make everyone equal. This is protecting equal protection from the government of the people. So not to make everyone equal, because people are not equal, and people are different.
Right.
And we have different skills, we have different talents. So I think that gets conflated, I guess is the word I'm trying to come up with in today's time, especially under this administration. So just everyone should be aware of that, I think.
Right.
That we're not,
Yeah.
we're not trying to become equal.
Excellent.
Okay.
Okay, so in 1918, the Supreme Court had a case and they gave their opinion. And they basically said that the government could acknowledge different classifications among different entities, but those classifications had to meet two requirements. The first one, it can't be an arbitrary classification. They can't just on a whim, name that. They can't just classify somebody based on whatever they want. And secondly, that the classification has to rely on real differences. Okay? So in other words, only arbitrary classifications would violate the Equal Protection Clause. And we're going to get into what those levels are in just a minute.
Okay.
So where there were real differences, it was constitutional for the law to reflect those differences. So for example, a black person and a white person, we have real differences in our skin color. So they are protected under the Equal Protection Clause. The only problem this brought was when the Supreme Court came up with this opinion and they made kind of this general principle. This is very subjective because what define real or define arbitrary? Again, it's left up to the Supreme Court justice or whoever's in the court to decide what's real and what's arbitrary. So it's kind of a principle, but it has too much leeway on both sides to just really move that to whatever you want it to be. So the Supreme Court came up with 3 levels of scrutiny. They developed these levels over time because to help with the situation. So they have this, there's strict scrutiny, there's mid-level scrutiny, and then there's minimal scrutiny. So strict level scrutiny is the suspect classification. So the African Americans, if you have a religious issue too, your religion would also go under strict scrutiny. And in strict scrutiny, the courts look at the situation very strictly. Okay. Now, with the mid-level scrutiny, those are more of your gender situations. And with those, there's substantial judicial oversight with that, but not as much as in a strict scrutiny level. And then last, the minimal scrutiny is basically all the other cases, and basically it's permitted as long as it's not arbitrary. So really the strict scrutiny is the biggest one, and that's where we find the black people versus white people, things like that.
Okay. All right.
Right?
All right.
So once they came up with those levels, you want to keep in mind that the Equal Protection Clause's main goal was to end racial discrimination. After the Civil War, that's where the 14th Amendment came into play, and that was the whole point of it. But which kind of scrutiny? It's up to basically up to the Supreme Court justices' opinions as to what they're going to do with that. So it was considered an arbitrary approach to justice because it was so subjective. And for those of you who've been part of these talks we've had before, and some of the other chapters Michael Ferris did, was that a lot of these Supreme Court justices have used their personal opinions or their personal biases along the way instead of adhering to the Constitution. And that's really been the issue. And that brings up the next point, is that what is the history of the Supreme Court and race? And Dale, I think you have that as a, yeah, great.
Okay. Debbie, I think it's interesting what you said. The Supreme Court justices' personal opinions versus what the Constitution says. That has been an argument and a point for decades and ever since, hasn't it? And even today, it's an issue about whether Supreme Court justices should be, basing decisions on original intent, or how much their personal preferences or biases should enter into decisions. So, I mean, that remains an issue and even in today's time.
Well, then I think going along with that, what's happening is more and more people are going along with that living view of the Constitution. Oh, well, you know, what they wrote back then doesn't really apply. So we need to, you know, deviate from the Constitution some. And that living view of the Constitution has really caused a lot of issues because our founding fathers were wise enough and smart enough to figure out how to make this thing work even 200 or 300 years later. And they built that into that.
Right.
So we have the Federalist Papers to back that up. So I think unfortunately, our culture's becoming more and more willing to not really follow what the Constitution says.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically, without going into all the cases, the Supreme Court has had a questionable track record when it comes to cases dealing with race, and they almost really sided with discriminating against Black people. Several cases were decided so wrongly they had to be reversed. And so several of those things happened. The slaves, first they came up with slaves can't be citizens. And though, thank God, the 14th Amendment reversed that. And a little bit later, they came up with a separate but equal, where Black people were equal, but they have to be educated separately. They have to ride separately. All that was so wrong. And then that was reversed too. So finally, in 1954, the Supreme Court finally used the literal interpretation of the 14th Amendment, and they required a colorblind rule of law when they reversed that students could go to the same public school. That was a bright light in all of their bad decisions. So, yeah. And then real quick on affirmative action, because I know we're getting close here on time here, is affirmative action, we said also earlier, is a controversial policy that gave preferential treatment to minorities in education and employment. And in 2007, the Supreme Court rightly ruled that these strict quota systems were unconstitutional when they were only based on the one aspect of race. Right. So they said you can still use quotas now. This was back in 2007. You can still use quotas, but it has to include a plethora of things. So what you had was you would have a white person who's trying to get into graduate school and wouldn't be able to get in because they were saving the first 16 seats for Black young men, but come to find out that they had the white young man had more qualifications, but still got pushed back, and that wasn't fair either. So it's kind of like reverse discrimination.
Right. I remember those cases. I remember so many of those cases.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think the church is still using I think it's still using affirmative action sometimes now. It's really sad, but I see it going on, and I'm like, what? That was what, 20 or 30 years ago. Okay, conclusion: Supreme Court has erratically permitted some discrimination on the basis of race over the years. It's kind of a black mark. It's something that's a little bit shameful what we've done, and but again, very subjective principles. So, all
right, Debbie, thank you very much. Another great chapter in constitutional literacy. So
you are very welcome.
And I'm looking at some of the comments, and I'll go through some of these but let you go. I don't see anyone asking a specific question about equal protection. So
okay.
So we'll let you go, Debbie, and look forward to seeing you again on April 19th. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Dale. See you then.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Debbie Stewart. Okay. Well, let's look at some of the viewer comments here. Here's Dale Tipton. Dale is the new district captain that was on the broadcast last Monday, and they got terminated. So, Dale, thanks for joining us again tonight. Glad to see you came back, and like I said, we'll try and get you back here on in April sometime. I think this is a new name, Richard Cutting. Richard, glad you could join us tonight. Richard says hello to everyone. And here's Chris Custer. Chris is a new district captain with us. And Chris is checking in with us this evening. So glad to have you. This individual is another one of our new district captains. And James also handles one of our other, we call it the follow-up tool, and it's where it's a report that we get on all the people that have joined on as a specific date, and we track this on a monthly basis. And so James is checking in tonight, and I think this comment is what he said. What he means that we've had over 200 new signers this week. So that's great news, and I want to thank James for tuning in this evening. James is also a new district captain, so we'll be bringing him on here in the near future. Richard asked this question, is this done every week or just once a month? And I think he refers to this broadcast that, and Richard, we do this every Monday evening. So hope to see you again next Monday evening. So this is a once a week, every Monday evening broadcast. All right. Those pretty much. I see we got another new district captain, Debbie Maley. I haven't met Debbie as yet. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. She's checking in to say hi to everyone. So Debbie, thank you for joining us this evening. Oh, Debbie Stewart. She's stepped away from her microphone. I'm going to save this comment for, hopefully she'll come back to her microphone. I see her, she's stepped away. And so she's got a fan here that wants to say hi to her. So I will try to hopefully get her back on here so that she can see this comment. All right, folks, those are the viewer comments this evening. And let's now move on to our next segment, which is going to be the contributor segment. And in this segment, I want to bring on one of our leadership individuals, John Ackerman. John does what we call John's Journal. And this is a very, very brief contribution, that pre-recorded contribution that John has made. So I'm going to mute myself and bring that up so that you can see this. So.
John Ackerman again for Convention of States, Indiana. One of the favorite presidents of my life is Ronald Reagan, and he spoke these words, quote, "The federal government has taken too much money from the people, too much authority from the states, and too much liberty from the Constitution." Close quote. President Ronald Reagan. That is why Convention of States exists, because the federal government has exceeded its boundaries. It has taken too much from the people, from the states, and from the Constitution. It's time to rein in runaway bureaucracy and lifetime career politicians and return to the rule that was meant to be we the people. And so help us. Join Convention of States. Sign the petition. Volunteer to help. Be a patriot. Help us return to the grassroots, the way things ought to be.
All right, John, thank you very much for that. Thank you, John, for that. John's Journal. I always enjoy John's Journal. He does a really, really good job on that. All right. I want to move on to the information segment now. And in order to do that, I'm going to bring up my PowerPoint presentation, and we will. Oh, Debbie, I want to bring you back up just briefly. I'm sorry to do this.
No, it's okay.
But we got a comment here from someone that has become a fan of yours.
Oh my goodness. No.
Pooch says thanks. Okay.
Aw,
You remember Pooch?
I do from our, wasn't it this? Oh, that was your friend.
That's right. That's
That's your
right.
high school friend.
That's right. I told Ken, his nickname was Pooch. I told him you were going to be on the broadcast tonight, and I asked him to come on and say hi to you. So
Well, hey, Pooch.
he always enjoys seeing you. So that's it. I'm sorry to bring you back up.
No.
I wish I would have seen this when you were up before, but
No,
so,
that's fine.
all right. Thank you very much.
All right. See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Pooch.
I just had to do that. Sorry, folks. Okay. Let's get now into the information segment, and let me bring up my PowerPoint as I said I was going to do. And let me make sure that I have it, that I'm not that I haven't muted myself by mistake here. That's something one could easily do. So I'm going to make this big, and I'm going to do the slideshow so that you can get a completely full view of each of the slides. So let's get started very quickly here. In Indiana, our vision statement is the same as our national vision statement: to build a strong, engaged army of self-governing activists. Now, we do have an Indiana mission statement, which, when we accomplish this, will bring us closer to realizing the vision statement, and that's to restore self-governance by recruiting, training, and deploying citizen activists to engage in all levels of government. Now, we have certain objectives that we've set forth here in 2021 that we want to try and accomplish. We want to grow to 70,000 supporters. We want to get some younger people involved in our movement. We want to grow to 7 region captains. We want to grow to 40 district captains. We are organized around House districts here in Indiana, and there are 100 of those House districts. And someday we want to have a district captain each one of those districts. But for right now, we're trying in 2021 to get to the 40 mark. We want to develop and implement a call to action program. Now, this has to do with legislation that we as an organization support. And as a matter of fact, in our broadcast on March 29th, I'm going to bring on our legislative team, and we're going to update you on the legislation that we are supporting and actively helping to get passed here in 2021. I'll be touching on those very shortly here, but just want to let you know that's coming up on March 29th. So that's all part of this objective that we're trying to accomplish in 2021. We also want to develop and deliver an education program, and I'll be talking about that here very, very shortly. That's something that we're going to be implementing very, very soon. So those are the objectives that we're trying to accomplish here in 2021. Some resources that we have available to us. The main one is our main national website, conventionofstates.com. Now, embedded in the national website is our state webpage, conventionofstates.com/Indiana. Facebook, this broadcast is being brought to you through our state Facebook page, Convention of States Indiana. YouTube channel, I've mentioned this earlier, that's where we're live streaming, COS Indiana. But our YouTube channel is also very much an educational resource for everyone. We have some narrated PowerPoints on there. We have recordings of our broadcasts, recordings of Debbie's constitutional literacy chapters. We also have links to a podcast that our legislative liaison, Paul Phillips, does called The Free to Be Free. Very, very good podcast. Paul does a great job on these. Paul's also a COS Indiana Live contributor, and you'll see him come on from time to time to give us a brief Free to Be Free. We call it the Free to Be Free moment. So you'll be seeing him. But we have, every time he generates a podcast, we'll put a link on our YouTube channel so you can have easy access to his podcast. We're on Parler. Right now, all we're doing is we're posting the recordings of our broadcasts, and those can be found on Parler at D.O. Parish. Instagram, we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter. We're looking at getting on MeWe and Rumble, kind of waiting for national to take the lead there. And I also want to mention our state newsletter. Our people are doing a great job on our state newsletter. Now, how do you get this? If you become a supporter of Convention of States here in Indiana, and you opt in to accept emails from us, then you will get this on a monthly basis. And like I said, our people are doing an excellent job with our state newsletter. Some things that are coming up. Here's the legislation that I mentioned earlier. There are 3 pieces of new legislation in the works in our state legislature that we are supporting. House Bill 1123, Disaster Emergencies, House Bill 1369, Firearms Matters, and House Bill 1384, Civics Education. So the legislative team that we're going to bring in here on March 29th will be talking to you about these bills and what the status is on each one of those. Now, two of the bills, 2 of our people have testified on behalf of these bills. David Waters testified on March 12th. Melba Kaiser testified on March 5th. The third individual, Marty Wood, his testimony is pending, and we expect that he will be testifying very, very shortly. So mark that on your calendar. March 29th, we'll have our legislative team in here to talk about all these pieces of legislation. Coming up March 28th is our virtual COS Indiana roundtable meeting. This is going to be on March 28th. This will be a Zoom and live streamed event on our YouTube channel, 7 p.m. Now, March 28th is a Sunday, but we're going to do this at 7 p.m. The agenda is basically going to be a legislative update, education program. Now, this is where we're going to be delivering to you. We're going to start delivering our education program that we've put together here in Indiana. So that'll be very, very informative, I think. And then we'll also conduct a Q&A. So I think that you're going to enjoy that like I said, it's a virtual Indiana roundtable meeting, March 28th, 7 p.m. You'll be getting more on this and hearing more about this. Next Monday, March 22nd, our next broadcast, we're going to have another one of our new district captains on, Donald Lynn. Don is the new district captain in House District 84, which is here in the Fort Wayne area where I'm located. So you'll get to meet another one of our new district captains, and that'll be next Monday evening, the 22nd. All right. Well, that is it for our information segment. Let me bring myself back up here, and I'll take the PowerPoint off, and there you can see me now. I want to get now into the final segment, which is the invitation segment. And in this first part of this segment, I want to talk to you about what Convention of States is all about. And I think one of the best ways to do this is a video that has been put out called Revolution. And I'm going to bring this up and play this for you, and I think you'll enjoy it. But it really I think it really touches on what we're all about here in Convention of States. So let me bring this up. Okay, and I need to mute myself here. So
let's talk about Congress. Hey, Congress is full of people who don't know what the hell they're doing, but want to control your lives.
The longer they stay in, the more connected they become to special interests, and special interests are destroying our nation.
They give each other what they want, and they stick the taxpayer with the bill.
What's going to happen to the millennials? Unfunded liabilities plus debt now is $144 trillion.
Politicians come in and say they're going to change it, and they never, ever do.
We're not going to surrender the greatest country on the face of the earth and turn it into another failed European experiment.
The question is today, will we use the Constitution to save the Constitution?
Our framers in particular foresaw that this day would come.
The Peach State is making history. Lawmakers passed a preliminary measure today for a convention of states.
The Missouri House passed a measure calling for a convention of states.
The Convention of States.
The Article 5 Convention of States.
Convention of States.
Convention of States.
Convention of the States.
How does the Convention of States?
Convention of the States.
The Convention of States.
Convention of States.
For the States Project.
Mark Meckler. Now you run a group trying to build a movement. You're saying the work is being done across this country to get to that 34 state threshold, and whether Washington wants it or not, the people hold a convention to limit the powers of the federal government.
It's right there in Article 5.
Article 5 of the Constitution was included by the founders for this exact time.
Where Washington would so depart from our principles
that only we, the people, could cut it down to size. So I think it may well take a convention to wake them up.
I've been a longtime supporter of the Convention of States to reestablish the sort of guiding principles of the Constitution.
The Convention of the States empowers the people of America to get some things done that they've long wanted.
By using Article 5 of the Constitution, we can pursue reforms such as a balanced budget amendment.
It's term limits on Congress, term limits on judges, and a balanced budget amendment for America.
Just becoming 11th state to call for a convention to limit federal government power.
The Arkansas House passed a resolution that calls for a convention of states.
30 states, Steve, 30, have either passed it in their state legislature or are actively considering it. So there is a pathway to that number.
Just literally nothing like this has been done in American history.
If you want to put government back in check, it's only going to be us, the people, do it.
And so this is the last chance I think we, the people, have to get back in the control of the constitutional reins of our republic.
Inspire them to make sure that we pass on a better America.
That is the next revolution we need.
No, we have to do this.
Governor Greg Abbott is calling for more states to get on board with a push for a convention of states.
Tomorrow we're going to work to make sure that we add the 13th, 14th, 15th, all the way up to the 34th state.
A year, 10 years, 100 years, whatever it takes.
If the federal government won't do it, then we will.
All right, I hope you enjoyed that. Like I said, I just think that video just really kind of captures what Convention of States is all about. And it is based on Article 5. And Article 5 describes the two ways that the Constitution can be amended. One of the ways, of course, we're familiar with, it's been used to amend the Constitution 27 times. There's a second method, and that's called the Convention of States, and it's never been used. Never been used according to Article 5. Now, Convention of States was a technique used back in the day to solve problems, but Article 5, Convention of States, has never been done. So we're going to be making history, folks, when we do this. But the purpose of the Convention of States is to propose amendments to the Constitution. And we want to address three areas: our national debt, the breadth and control of the federal government, and term limits for Congress and the federal judiciary and other federal officials. So those are the three areas that we want the convention to address. It takes 34 states for this convention to happen. This bypasses Congress and the president. So 34 states to make this happen. 15 states have signed on to bring this about. And yes, Indiana is one of those states. We were the 6th state to sign the resolution to bring this about, calling for a convention of states. Now, mind you, the convention is to propose amendments. Any proposed amendments that come out of the convention would then have to be ratified by 3/4 of the state legislatures, or 38 states, before the proposed amendment would in fact become an amendment. So this is what we're trying to get accomplished. We're going to make history when we do this. I've said this before, and I think it is so true. That it is time to do this, and so we need to bring this about. We need to make this happen. Now, there's another item that I want to point out that we believe in very strongly, and you've heard us mention this evening, and that's called self-governance. I want to bring this up, and this is the we the people part. This is self-governance, and we encourage all of our leadership individuals to get involved. So this is a constitutional right and a constitutional responsibility of all of us to get involved, not only in our federal government, but get involved in our state government, our county, city, local community. Folks, the closer these things are to you, the greater impact you can have by getting involved. So in addition to a convention of states that we want to try and that we want to make happen, we also stress what we call self-governance, and that's basically just getting involved. So those are the two things that we really stress in Convention of States. Now I want to, and I'm going to solo this here so that you can see this. Here's what you do to join us here in Convention of States here in Indiana. And that is to go to that national website, conventionofstates.com, sign the petition, open an account. That makes you a supporter. And that's an important step right there. You become now a supporter of Convention of States. If you would like to get further involved, which we hope you would, click on the menu selection at the top, click on Take Action. Scroll down to where it says Become a Leader. Look at the different volunteer opportunities that we have available here. If one's of interest to you, open it up, read about it, go ahead and make an application. You're not obligated in any way. Don't worry about that. But what that does is your name then comes up on a report that I see every day, as well as a few others. One of us then will be in contact with you to further discuss that position that you're looking at. One of those positions is district captain. You heard me talk about this earlier in the objectives that we have set for 2021. We're always looking to add district captains. We have 100 districts here in the state of Indiana. We're striving to get to 40 here in 2021. So we got a long way to go. So if you want to get involved, the district captain position is the position that I would love to see you take a look at. All right. Okay. That's how you get involved in Convention of States. And I hope that many of you will be moved to do that, because like I said, folks, we're going to make history. And this is going to be a historic opportunity for us. So we would love to have you come along and join us in this effort. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up this evening. I know I've gone longer than I normally do, so I hope that's okay. But look for us again next Monday evening on the 22nd. And like I said, we'll have one of our new district captains, Donald Lynn, will be our guest that evening. So with that, I'm going to say good night to everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening, and see you next Monday evening.